My name is Charles Enoch, and on today's episode of Invest in Myself, we will be going over how to invest in real estate by leveraging our lines of credit. So first we need to understand what is leverage. So leverage is when you use the bank's money or capital to make a profit, and the profit is higher than the interest you would have to pay back to the bank. Now I want to just break down my method of how I invest in real estate before we get on the board and work these numbers. So I'm from the Tacoma, Seattle area, and I actually invest my money in the Midwest, specifically Kansas. The city in Kansas is the capital, Topeka, Kansas. Now, the type of properties I invest in are single family homes, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 8 to 1,200 square feet. So pretty much starter homes. These starter homes I try to get in C-class areas. And in a future video, we will go over the definition of A, B, C, D, and F class properties. So the definition of a C-class area is individuals that are probably lower middle class. These are your 9-to-5 labor workers. Now these individuals, they don't live in the hood, but they don't live in the higher class, upper scale, maybe gated communities or HOAs. Now the reason why I invest in the C class areas, they produce more cash flow. So for example, let me use some numbers from a property that I bought down in Topeka, Kansas. So the property, I bought it for $50,000. I put about $10,000 in for rehab to fix the property up. That mortgage would end up being about $350. And I rented out the property for about $850. So that's a $500 cash flow profit. So with this example that I gave you, these are the numbers that we will be using on the board, so we get an understanding of what type of properties I'm investing in, what area I'm investing in, and how the cash flow is configured when I invest in these properties. All right. We are about to get straight into it. We have Leverage Larry. And his situation, he has a house and he paid most of his house off. He has some equity in the house, but he doesn't have a significant cash flow. He wants more cash flow without having to work a 9-to-5 or pick up any extra hours. So what we're working with, Larry has $4,000 of income from his job. His expenses are $3,500 per month, which leaves him at a $500 cash flow per month. Now Larry, he wants to strengthen this cash flow. So the first thing I tell Larry to do is go get a home equity line of credit or a HELOC on the house that you have paid a lot off. So the bank offers Larry a HELOC of $65,000. This is the bank's money that we are going to be leveraging with to buy properties. Now I'm going to give you guys the breakdown of the properties that I invest in. I invest in the Midwest, remember, so these properties are going to be numbers from Kansas, where I pretty much put my money and invest into. So let's break it down here. The cost of a fixer property, a single family home, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, maybe 800 to 1,200 square feet, we're looking at a cost of $50,000. We're looking at the rehab is going to be about $10,000. So altogether, the house is going to cost us $60,000. Now for any rental property, you're going to have to put down a 20% down payment. So 20% of the $6,000 is going to equal $12,000. Now, the mortgage on a $60,000 property is going to be around $350 per month. Now, typically you can rent these properties out, and this is kind of on the low end of $850 per month. So that's going to leave us at a cash flow, a net amount of $500 per month per property. All right, so we're going to get straight into leveraging the $65,000 HELOC that we have here. So we're going to go with example 1 here. So leverage Larry, we're going to give him a low risk example of leverage. So he wants to buy one property. Remember, the property is going to cost us about $50K. The rehab is going to cost us about $10K for the property, which leaves us at $60,000 for a property. So we are going to get a mortgage of the $60,000. Now, 20% of $60,000 is $12,000. So we need to do a $12,000 down payment on this one property. And we're going to use our HELOC, the $65,000, to put towards the down payment. Now, since we have this property, assuming a perfect world, our mortgage is going to be $350. The rent from the tenant is going to be $850, which makes our cash flow $500 from the property, the rental property. We see that in green. Now, the $500 in black is him working. So his own cash flow from work is $500. So he has a net cash flow now of $1,000 from that one property. Now, since we have used $12,000 on our $65,000 HELOC, we have an emergency fund of $53,000. Remember, we don't have bank accounts. We use our line of credit as our bank account. So the income that Larry gets, he's going to put his whole check and his rent money into his HELOC. He's going to put it all into his HELOC, and then he's going to take money out to pay his expenses. And this is how we're going to build our HELOC back up. So the positive cash flow is $1,000 every month. So if we times that by 12, so in 12 months, he would have put $12,000 into his line of credit. That would make the HELOC, the line of credit, $65,000 back again. So in a year, he would have paid off his line of credit back to $65,000. Now, we do have to take into account of simple interest. And remember, if you have not seen the video of simple interest, please click on the link down below to calculate how simple interest works. If we calculate the simple interest in there, it may take them maybe 13, 14 months to get back to $65,000. Now, one thing to remember, when we are leveraging the line of credit and we put that $12,000 on the mortgage payment, a lot of people that have savings accounts, what they want to do, what they want to advise you is, hey, your checks that you get, you have to have an emergency fund just in case something goes wrong with the property. But guess what? Since we have a line of credit and we only use $12,000, we have $53,000 to work with. So if something terrible happens to the property, we draw from our line of credit. So all your rent money, all your income is going to just go straight towards the line of credit. You don't need to save for an emergency fund if something happens on this property because you have that much line of credit. So this is a very low risk because you only bought one property and you have $53,000 of an emergency fund just in case something goes wrong with this property. Now, another thing to note too, since we put $10,000 to rehab this property, odds are this property's not going to have a lot wrong with it because you've already fixed it up. But just in case something happens, you have $53,000 to fall back on. I mean, who wouldn't do this? This is very low risk. All right, so we're going to move to example number 2. So Larry, he just was not feeling just $500 of cash flow. He needs more. He needs more than $500 extra on top of his $500 that he gets from the job. So I say, okay, Larry, we can leverage our line of credit even more. So we're going to up the stakes here. So we have 3 properties that Larry wants to invest in. So every property is $50K, remember? So since he's going to get 3 of these, that's $150,000. Now every property, you're going to put $10,000 in for rehab to fix everything up. So since he has 3 of them, that's going to be $30,000. So it equals a total of $180,000 mortgage that we are going to invest in. So since the mortgage is $180,000, we have to put 20% down. That's going to be $36,000. Guess where we're getting this $36,000? From our home equity line of credit. So we put $36,000 down for these properties. Now, if we add all the mortgages up, so $350 times 3, our mortgage is going to be $1,050 per month. Now, our rent that we get from the tenants are going to be $2,550, which leaves us at a cash flow of $1,500 for the rental properties. Plus, you're going to add his $500 from work. That's a $2,000 cash flow. So you see the difference between one property was $500. Now, since he bought 3 all at one time, he has $1,500 cash flow. So he's leveraging a little bit more of the bank's money to get a higher return. Now, remember, if something goes astray with these 3 properties, he has $29,000 he can lean back on the bank, just in case something goes wrong. So the leverage is pretty good. With the odds here, with $29,000, and you just rehabbed all 3 of these properties, not much is going to go wrong with it. You may have to take a couple thousand, who knows? But it's not that risky because you have $29,000 to fall back on. Now remember the velocity banking concept. Since the HELOC is our bank account, we're putting $2,000 in. We're putting $2,000 of cash flow in there every month because we have the $1,500 and the $500 of cash flow. So remember, you're putting the $4,000 of income of his work income, the $2,550 of that income, and you're putting it into your line of credit. Then you pay all your expenses at a time, one at a time. Whenever it's due, you're just going to draw out of your line of credit. So this will be a medium leverage risk here. So you got 3 properties, you have $29K to fall back on. This is your emergency fund. And then now you're putting about your $4,000 and your $2,550 in every month. So about $6,000 you're going to put in that line of credit, and then you're going to take it out for expenses. And you're going to keep on doing this until your line of credit is built back up. All right, so I pitched option number 2 to Larry of buying 3 properties. And Larry, he's like, man, this leveraging thing is pretty darn cool. We're using the bank's money. We're buying all these properties to increase our cash flow. And then all the cash flow we put into the line of credit, pay our expenses, and whatever the difference is going to be left into our line of credit until we build that back up. Leverage Larry, he's getting a little greedy here. He's like, hey, let's try to leverage some more. How about 5 houses? And I say, oh, all right. All right, Larry, let me give you an example of 5 houses and you see if you feel like this is too much leverage. All right, so we have 5 properties that Larry wants to buy from his line of credit. So remember, every property is $50,000. Every fixer property is $50,000. We times that by 5, we have $250,000. Every property needs a $10,000 facelift, a $10,000 rehab. Make sure everything in there is pretty good, working okay, so we have minimal repair issues. So we times that by 5, that's going to be $50,000 that he's going to put into all the properties. It's going to leave us at $300,000 for a mortgage. Now remember, we have to put 20% down on that $300,000. So 20% is $60,000. So since we did $60,000 out of the home equity line of credit, our mortgages for these houses, so $350 times 5 is $1,750 per month. Your rent is $4,250 per month that you get from all the tenants. Now your cash flow is $2,500 a month because you bought 5 properties. Plus your $500 from the work, that's $3,000 of cash flow. Now here's the thing. How much do we have for an emergency fund from our HELOC? We only have $5,000 because we use $60,000 to do the $20,000 down payment on the $300,000. So just in case something goes wrong, we only got $5,000 to play with. Now this is a very high leverage. I would not advise this because I mean, if something drastically goes wrong with all 5 houses and you only got $5,000 to play with, you're gonna be drowning. You're gonna be up a creek. So this type of leverage is a high-end leverage. But do you see how the cash flow is way higher? So if you can risk it just to make more money, your cash flow is going to grow way higher. Since you are putting way more into the line of credit, you are going to actually pay this back pretty quickly. But the catch is, you only got $5,000 in that emergency fund. I mean, it does build up every single month because you're putting in a net of $3,000. So it's like 5 plus 3,000, 8. So it's going to build up pretty quick. But again, if something drastically happens, you have really leveraged the bank's money. Now, since we have an understanding of leveraging the bank's money using the home equity line of credit to invest in real estate, there are some key things that I want you guys to take note of. So we're going to go back to the 3 properties which would be a good leverage for the average person because you have money to work with just in case. Now, since we have put $30,000 into fixing properties, this is called a write-off. So what this means is, let's say Larry made $30,000 for the year from his job. Even though the numbers don't add up to be $30,000, let's just pretend that they do. Since he has a $30,000 write-off, that means that Larry does not pay taxes on his paycheck because he had $30,000 write-off. So we always see these memes of, hey, this is my gross payment, but when I get that net payment, it looks like this, it just shrivels and shrinks. Not Larry's. Since he used the bank's money to just invest in properties, that's a $30,000 write-off. So he actually increased his cash flow because his tax return, he doesn't pay taxes on his wages because that's $30,000 he does not need to pay taxes on. So Leverage Larry has even added more cash flow just because he used the bank's money. So he's not working harder, he's working smarter. So what we see majority of people doing, since they're so scared of leveraging the bank's money, they're just going to work overtime. Now the thing with overtime, like we know, the more you make, the more Uncle Sam taxes your money. So let's say, since Leveraged Larry, he made a $1,500 cash flow by using the bank's money by investing into these properties. Let's say hardworking Harold, he just worked 90 hours every week to get $1,500 more of cash flow. Guess what? Uncle Sam is going to tax him. He is going to tax him so much, he ain't even going to see that $1,500 extra dollars. And we all know this. So instead of working harder, working this overtime, what you need to be thinking about is how to invest your money so you can get a tax write-off. And then when you're working your 9 to 5, you're not paying taxes on it because you use the bank's HELOC. You just use the bank's money, their $30,000, to have a $30,000 tax write-off so you can have your gross payment and not your net payment. Whew, that's some powerful stuff right there. That is very powerful. So Leveraged Larry, all he did was look at some houses, use the bank's money, and now he gets his gross payment working. And hard-working Harold, I mean, he is busting his butt off, trying to make ends meet, but he's so scared to invest the bank's money, so now when he works, he is not being taxed. It's that simple. Now we got to think how the IRS has written these tax laws. They benefit people that invest. So the IRS, they want people to make homes for other people. They're giving away money. They're giving people tax breaks to go buy a house and have somebody move into there. They're thinking that's better for the economy, so they're giving them a tax break. So we need to go with the laws that help us. So when we invest in real estate, we are getting tax breaks from the government. The government's like, keep on getting more properties. Now, what the government does not do, they do not reward you for working overtime. You can work 100 million hours of overtime from your job. They're going to tax you more. It's not beneficial in the tax laws to be working harder. We need to learn how to work smarter, and we will get ahead. So when we're using this velocity banking method for real estate, you can choose your risk. You can choose low risk. If you just don't trust this, hey, buy one property, put your $12,000 down of the bank's money, you get your $500 cash flow from the property, and you have $53,000 of emergency funds just in case something goes wrong with that one property. That's it. That's super low leverage. And all you're doing is putting all your money into the home equity line of credit and taking out for the expenses. Eventually it's going to build back up because you have cash flow. You have $1,000 cash flow and only simple interest is being charged. Or when you get a little advance, maybe you can do even a medium leverage where you have 3 properties and then you have $29,000 to play with. Your cash flow is $1,500 now. So these are kind of the levels of leverage that you can use to, first off, increase your cash flow, and then when you're working your 9 to 5, you're actually getting a write-off for that. So some of that money you're not paying taxes in when you're working. Now I hope this video has encouraged you guys to even just think about investing in real estate by using your line of credit, because there's so many benefits. So before I end the video, I want to tell you guys some hiccups that you might go through when you're trying to leverage with your lines of credit here. So one hurdle that you might go through is the number of houses that you can get with a mortgage. So lenders, depending on the lender, they may only allow 5 or 6 mortgages. So after you get about 5 or 6 mortgages, there will be another strategy that you will have to use if you want to keep on investing into more real estate. Second, when you use the down payment from your HELOC, some mortgage companies, they require that you have that down payment in your bank account for at least maybe 2 to 3 months. So what you're going to run into here is, out of the $65,000 HELOC, you're going to have to draw $12,000 out to put it into your checking account, and you're going to have to hold on to it for 2 to 3 months. So that's going to accrue the simple interest. You're still going to put all your income in there from your checks, and then draw out whatever the expenses is, and you're going to leave the $12,000 in your checking account for 2 to 3 months so you can get approved for a mortgage. So I just wanted to let you guys know of the hurdles that you may go through when you're trying to leverage your line of credit and the underwriting process of these mortgages. With that being said, I hope this video has shed some light. Again, we are dropping gems every Friday so we can learn how to build that wealth. If you have not, please subscribe down below, like, share with others, encourage people to subscribe. We are trying to build this channel up, and we are trying to help everybody out. So I'll catch you guys next week. You have a good weekend. Peace out.